Today we review Rose. This is the competitive reward for Season of the Seraph. And let me just say, guys, this hand cannon, it's gonna do stuff to you. I highly advise finding a safe place in your home or wherever you may be, as watching this hand cannon in action is extremely arousing. With that being said though, Rose is finally dropping for folks. Bungie actually fixed it. Big shout out to Bungie for actually getting this done within 24 hours. I know some of you are like, Cross, really? We're congratulating Bungie on fixing bugs? Yes, 24-hour turnarounds for a bug fix that for once helps us. You dang right, we have to congratulate that. Now, if you have not seen our competitive guide, we actually have an extensive guide on how to get through the competitive playlist. But essentially, once you complete that first intro quest every week, all you have to do is just play in the competitive playlist. And you're pretty much guaranteed a rose on each character. And if RNG blesses you, you may get that Godroll rose. Today, though, we did get to play with a number of different roles for Rose, as I wanted to narrow down what exactly is the Godroll here. So let me just show you a couple of these. First is actually the role that dropped for me, which is actually pretty decent. Mine came with full bore, steady rounds, which I know does hurt your range, but the stability bump there is really nice. Perpetual motion, Eye of the Storm, and I chose heavy grip, but I could have used like a combat sight, which would have actually maxed out my recoil direction. Granted, the weapon already sits at 95 recoil direction, so you really don't need it. And considering that this weapon is already a lightweight frame, again, guys, this is a hybrid hand cannon. It has superb handling by default. Now, one thing you're gonna notice immediately when using Rose is, yes, you're moving faster. What's intrinsic to all lightweight weapons is that bonus there to movement speed. Rose possesses that. And back in the day, 150 round per minute hand cannons, which is what Rose originally was, had this intrinsic perk. It's still a 140 though. You're still looking at a 0.87 time to kill value, optimal, and a 1.73 TTK value for your body shot time to kill. Definitely one of the worst in terms of body shot TTKs. You'll want to land crits, guys. Now, honestly, my roll, it was okay. It's definitely not the best. And that's primarily because that barrel perk, full bore, is really dragging it down, and the mag perk could have been better. Back in the day, I would say like commit to full bore, right? Considering that it hurts your stability by -10 and your handling by -5, that plus 15 there in range is just not worth it. I would prefer like Hammerforge rifling, as that just gives you a flat buff there to range of +10. Now, the overall reach of this hand cannon, this particular roll, is about 29.62 meters. It's not that far. And I noticed anything past that point, I definitely could tell it was losing traction. Overall consistency was dipping off, and I really needed to bring my gunfights within that range. Which actually brings me to the next roll we got to try. Big shout out to Arbiter here for allowing us to play with this roll. I wanted to actually try out Opening Shot. Now, this was an interesting roll because not only did it have Opening Shot, it also had Elemental Capacitor. I was rocking a Void subclass, and my curiosity was, did the increase there in stability really aid this hand cannon? Elemental Capacitor offers all types of benefits depending on the subclass that you're using. A lot of people really like Arc for that increase in handling, but considering that this is a lightweight hand cannon, I really felt like the handling was okay, and I actually wanted to try out the +20 in stability there. Granted, I could have definitely rocked Arc, which would have pretty much maxed out our handling stat. My question though at that point is it necessary? Like, how much is the lightweight intrinsic perk actually tagging on? And considering we have different grips over here that can also aid in our handling stats, it's kind of a toss-up for me on which one actually outshines the other. Now, Opening Shot itself is a fantastic trait. It gives you +20 aim assists for the first shot, +25 range, -5% accuracy cone size, and -10% accuracy cone growth. Overall, guys, it increases the accuracy as well as the range. Now, considering that this weapon has a default range of 43, tagging on 25 extra range is really, really nice. We're talking that first shot, at least with this particular roll, reaching up to like 32.5 meters. And I love it whenever I'm actually swapping back and forth between different weapons. Opening Shot, even if I'm like flicking, it like drags over. It finds the target for me and it snags. Beautifully so. Overall though, guys, I really wasn't that impressed with this particular roll, and I don't think it's because of Opening Shot. Elemental Capacitor, I feel like I could have used something else there. Maybe that would be Perpetual Motion, like the roll that I had, or perhaps even Rapid Hit, Moving Target, etc. Now, considering all those things, I actually wanted to completely commit here to a fully maxed out range roll. And this actually brings us to Meme God and his roll. And fellas, let me tell you something. This was it. This was the roll. This is the one you need to sit down for, because my God, it's doing stuff to me. It came with small bore, accurized rounds, rapid hit, and rangefinder, plus plus a range masterwork. This actually kicked our range stat up to 70. To give you some perspective on this, guys, this hand cannon can reach up to 34.8 meters. Now, if I roll something like Hammerforged Rifling, that would actually kick it over that 35 meter mark. And we talk very, very highly of Allstringer, and I love Allstringer, but the roll that Rose can get, or this particular roll, like if it was Hammerforged Rifling, that range stat actually exceeds that of +2 over Allstringer. And again, I'm not even bringing full bore into the conversation, guys, because it's just not a good barrel perk. Don't choose it. But a rangefinder roll on Allstringer, and I actually have an enhanced rangefinder roll as well as enhanced Eye of the Storm, both traits that I very much enjoy. I would argue and say Rose, a Godroll Rose, is comparable to that of a fully crafted enhanced Allstringer, if not better. And that's simply due to the fact that the weapon feels so fluid. Again, it feels like a 150 without it actually shooting at 150 rounds per minute. This was the roll though, guys. The only way I think it could have been better is if we would have traded out Rapid Hit there for Perpetual Motion. And don't get me wrong, I really do like Rapid Hits. Like I said a second ago, you want to go for crits. And Rapid Hit is good because you don't really have to have any build up in order for it to be good, right? Just right out the gate, you're kicking those stability stats up with every single precision shot, 2, 12, 14, 18, and 25. And when it comes to like chaining kills, this is really good. And if you happen to be more stationary, this is also really good. Now, Perpetual Motion, that's a fantastic trait too. That actually will give you 5 stability, 5 handling, and 5 reload at just 1 stack. And at 2 stacks, which requires 10 seconds of movement, that's actually 15 stability, 15 handling, and 15 reload. My only problem with Perpetual Motion is if you get into situations where it's like stalemates inside of Crucible and you're not moving as much, Perpetual Motion will go away. It's not even helping you then, which is why Rapid Hit here was really, really nice. Now, I know somebody's gonna bring up Cross, what about moving target? The weapon already sits at an aim assist of 85. You could throw on moving target, which gives you a passive +10 there to your aim assist, as well as that reduction in movement speed penalty while ADSing and strafing. The issue is if you're already rocking a targeting mod, you're reaching that cap. And considering we have hand cannon targeting this season that only costs +1, that's no problem. This roll right here, guys, I fell in love with. I felt like I couldn't lose duels with it. And there are definitely hand cannons in the past that make me feel that way. Allstringer being one, Palindrome being another. I know Ace of Spades is up there too. Rose possesses that and then some. Now, when we actually sit down and do a side-by-side comparison of Rose to all these different hand cannons, just off of its base stats, it does look weaker in the range and the stability department, without a doubt. 2 things though that really amplifies this weapon. A, rangefinder, and B, you do have options there for those grips, which does tack on extra handling and extra stability depending on which one you choose. I like smooth grip because you get that +5 to both stability and handling. You can overcommit though and give like polymer grip, which gives +10 there to handling. That actually picks these stats up. So I know when you're actually sitting there looking, especially at the stability, and you're like, yo, the stability's worse here in comparison to literally everything except maybe Ace of Spades or the original Rose. This is actually okay. And even though the range comes in under a lot of these other weapons, it makes up for it both with accurate rounds and of course rangefinder. And I know we have things like Cantata, which can reach up to 35.5 meters. Palindrome with rangefinder and the right roll can reach up to 35.5 meters. So Rose is essentially doing the exact same thing that those hand cannons are doing. And so the question you have to ask yourself, is losing perhaps maybe a quarter of a meter worth the trade-off here? And that trade-off being having a super consistent hand cannon that easily 3 taps. It combats flinch well with it being a lightweight frame. It's fluid. I've got a ton of Warlocks in here that rock Ophidian aspects constantly, but for the rest of us, we don't rock Ophidians. And none of this gameplay has Ophidians. This level of fluidity is Rose all on its own. Overall, guys, I think this is one of the best hand cannons in the game. I'm not gonna say it's the best because preferences are preferences, but if I had to choose amongst this list of hand cannons, which one to take into battle, at this point, guys, I'm actually leaning towards Rose. By the way, this gameplay was riddled with controller gameplay as well as mouse and keyboard. It felt phenomenal on both. There were a few times where Rose was losing traction on mouse and keyboard, but keep in mind that was with the rolls that were like sub 30 meters, the ones that were definitely struggling to get up into those higher ranges. The only thing that I wish we could have tested, and I just couldn't seem to find or even obtain a single roll with explosive payload, that one also interests me. Yes, it cuts down your range, but explosive payload is arguably the main reason why why I think Fatebringer, the time loss version, is one of the best 140s in the game. That payload perk flinches the piss out of your enemies. And you'll be surprised how many times that actually saves you in 1v1s. So is it worth doing comp? I think it is, guys. Again, you don't have to kill yourself. It's not like you're having to go through and reach a certain rank. All you have to do is participate. Just play in comp. It's very obvious that there's some level of skill-based matchmaking present in comp too, so it's not like you're going to be playing the sweaties of the sweaties. You also have a freelance playlist on top of it. Literally play through the divisions, get your placement, and then proceed to do the weekly missions each week to get that randomly rolled rose. And hopefully, you'll get that god roll that we all so very much want. For my PvE players that are wondering, is this hand cannon worth the trouble for you? Well, if you're looking for, you know, an explosive payload, rapid hit hand cannon inside of PvE, by all means, go right ahead. It's also got Vorpal on it. No, it's not really doing anything that special. It's not like this thing has Volt Shot. Hell, in the damage perk department, it doesn't really possess anything either outside of Vorpal. But what this hand cannon does possess is a very good max size at 11, and that actually may be worth you considering. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of this one. And again, shout out to the folks there in Discord for allowing me to try out the rolls. We'll be testing and reviewing all the random rolls this season, guys. There are so many different weapons, so be looking out for that. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.